Hello and welcome back to the online Assyrian Speech Lesson Course 2. In this video I will explain a little the methods that I have used in my books. In the introduction of Speech Book 1 I mentioned that I use the method used by little kids to learn their mother tongue, which is by hearing and repeating. But in fact, a child doesn't hear all the words and sentences in his mother tongue. Nevertheless, children are able to speak their mother tongue fluently. So I need to explain this point a bit more. As explained in the book called Chomsky's Universal Grammar by Cook and Newsom, I quote, "Children hear a number of sentences said by their parents and other caretakers, which are the primary linguistic data. They process these in some fashion within their black box, which is the language acquisition part of the brain, and they acquire linguistic competence in the language." According to Chomsky's theory, language acquisition is creative, and there exists a universal grammar, and this process of learning is possible because these universal grammar rules exist already in the infant's brain. When the infants hear the language that is spoken to them, they decide which parameters to use. According to this theory, language faculty is one of the elements of human biological endowments. The language faculty grows as the child grows, and the child acquires the lexicon, which is the list of vocabulary and how to use them. According to Chomsky, there's only one universal language, and each language has different values for the set parameters. For example, in some languages, such as English, verb movement is not allowed. Now, verb movement is a parameter, but in some other languages, such as French or Assyrian, verb movement is allowed. In affirmative sentences in Assyrian, verb can go anywhere. The most important word occupies the first position. For example, if I want to say the mighty man came from the mountain, I can say it in various ways, as you can find on the paper here. I can say Gabara, the giant man, the mighty man, Tele, came, Mentura, from the mountain. Or I could say Tele, Gabara, Mentura, came, the mighty man, from the mountain. Or I could say Mentura, Gabara, Tele, from the mountain, the mighty man came. Or Mentura, Tele, Gabara, from mountain came, the mighty man. Now, each of these sentences conveys a different feeling to the reader or the listener. The first one emphasizes the mighty man, the second, the fact that he came, and the third, the place where he came from. Now, note that Gabara is an adjective, but here it is used as a noun, and that's another flexibility of the Assyrian language. Moreover, in Assyrian, there are null subject sentences, as in Latin and Italian, because the verb contains all the information that is needed. According to Chomsky's theory, the more flexible a language is, the better it is. Therefore, Assyrian language is a very good language and it's worth learning. Now, what could be the role of the universal grammar in learning a second language? According to Cook, there are three possibilities. The first is that the learners have direct access to universal grammar. This will happen if the learners find themselves in an environment where people only speak the second language. So the learners are obliged to hear that language all day long and to express themselves somehow in that language. The second possibility is to have indirect access, and that is through their mother tongue. Now, this happens when the learner constantly refers the second language to his or her mother tongue, and has translation exercises, etc. Now, the third possibility is to have no access to universal grammar, and this happens when the learners learn the grammatical rules of the second language. Now, all these three methods have been used in teaching the second language, and teachers have found that the success really depends on the learner and the circumstances. And actually, all three methods have had a certain degree of success. For that reason, I have used all three methods in my books, with more emphasis on the direct access, which is by hearing and repeating. So you will find that there are a lot of exercises for that purpose. But at the same time, sentence structures are explained only briefly, because according to Chomsky and theory, ideally the grammar should consist of only the bare minimum. A list of vocabulary is provided so that the student will learn by repetition where and when to use the vocabulary, so that they will build their lexicon. Exercises are provided at the end of each lesson so that the learners would be able to use their creative ability to master the vocabulary and the grammatical rules they have learned. And the translation exercises will help them relate the Assyrian language to English, which may be their first language. I hope you will join me in the next video, where I will explain the grammatical rules used in Speech Book 2. Goodbye.